2 days, so I'm sure y'all feel like the members of this committee feel. But thank y'all so very, very much for being here today. We'll start off with a prayer, and so Senator Settler, would you mind praying with us? Pray for us. Oh, I'm sorry. What 8?
6.
6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pray with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, you're the giver of all good things. We pray, Lord God, that you would bless this time, bless us with your Spirit, bless us with wisdom and goodness. Let us see clearly all the issues, and let us approach them with humility and wisdom. Lord, you're the giver of all good things. Bless this time. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you. We're going to start it off with a little bit different. We had a Senate resolution last session that all of us voted on, Senate Resolution 237. And basically, in generic terms, it basically said we want somebody to get a group of educators all together and determine why people do not want to be teachers anymore, and why people are not going into teaching. So, in working with Dr. Jody Barra, he agreed to head this program up. And so, in the bill, if you recall, in the resolution, it said upon the Professional Standards Commission, in collaboration with the Department of Education, Department of Early Care and Learning, the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia, the Office of Student Achievement, the University System of Georgia, the Technical College System of Georgia, and the Georgia Student Finance Commission, and with input from Education Association. So that tells you who all was in the room many, many times during this meeting. And so I had asked Dr. Barras, he actually presented a report to the Senate and House Education Committees, I guess maybe a month or so ago, it may not be that long. And several of our, particularly our Democrat members were at a retreat. So I'd ask you to come back today, because we're going to have a series of bills, hopefully in the next few days, that of some recommendations in this report. But first of all, I want to read something to you that's in the report. And I think this is so profound, and I've said it so many times. It says, educators are the only workforce whose performance determines the quality and size of all future workforces. This makes teacher preparation, support, and retention not just an education issue, but a strategic economic imperative. And I think we all know that, and I think that's why we're all here today, and I think that's why we've got the literacy bills rolling the way we're doing. We've got a great literacy bill that will be coming over hopefully sometime, maybe the middle or latter part of next week and so forth. So, Dr. Barra, if you would please introduce yourself. Dr. Barra is from my part of the world, Claxton, Georgia originally, and I think that kind of adds a lot to our relationship. But please introduce yourself and please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Hickman, Vice Chair Payne, and all of the committee members. I'm delighted to be here with you today to talk about something that we're all very passionate about, and that's commitment to quality recruitment and retention of Georgia educators. And I'm not sure how many of you really know about the PSC, so very quickly, I just wanted to share with you, this is our mission statement. We want to have the best prepared, qualified, and most ethical workforce in the nation. That's what our goal is, and we're protecting the higher standard of Georgia learning. So we've got a big task. If you don't know how the commission is made up, we've got the grouping here. It's an appointment by the governor. And you can see that it's primarily teachers, but we have some administrators, school board members, higher ed, and also private sector here. And the governor appoints us all for a 3-year term. So just to give you a little bit of information about the agency, and we have some organization. There are things particularly that we're responsible for: certification for all licensing and certification of all educators. We've got the Ed Prep programs. That's all of our colleges and universities. Ethics is a big piece. I know y'all can appreciate that. And then, of course, we have assessment, and there's rules involved in that. So we've got a small agency, but it's mighty in the calling that we have to try to achieve. The need across the continuum, I think in a lot of agencies we could say this is pretty much true, but certainly it's true in the PSC's agency with the 6 things there: recruitment, preparation, certification, induction, retention, and renewal. And you know, I would say this as a Georgian, You know, we've got some great things going on in our state. I think you've seen the sound bites and the news press clippings, but just a couple of things. I put this top one in there because Senator Hickman said we're from Southeast Georgia. It's always nice when we see business and industry that spreads out across the state. Certainly that's exciting. I won't go into a lot of these, but I know we're all proud that our state has been recognized as the best state to do business for the last 12 years. That's wonderful. We should be celebrating that. But also some things happen sometimes along that aren't always great. And if you remember back in September, we found out that one community over in Columbus was going to be negatively impacted because of a merger. Now, that's good business, but we're going to lose a lot of jobs in that local community. And so those kinds of things happen from time to time across the state, too. I've put in a couple of other slides, I think, that have some relevance here, and I certainly want to speak to those. This is from our last census report. And you may or may not know this, but most young adults really don't move away from their childhood home if there's a reason for them to stay. And that's one of the things that we want to do is give them reasons to stay all across Georgia, whether it's workforce or whether it's in education. And clearly that's what we're focused on here. Here's some graduate outcomes. Most of our high school graduates remain in the state. And folks, I know you may not be able to see all of this. You have access to this PowerPoint. You can take it and look at it and keep it, share it, and go into greater depth if you'd like to. But most of our young people stay in the state of Georgia, and that's a good thing for us. So the importance, why, and I wanted to start wide, and now we're coming down to the point where we're at with the resolution. The importance of the Georgia workforce. We've got well over 140,000 educators with early childhood, that's DECAL, and also K-12 education leaders, and that's somewhere around 1.9 million young people. We can be considered the largest professional workforce in Georgia. Certainly it's a pipeline, as Senator Hickman talked about, in driving Georgia's economy. It drives innovation, opportunity gaps, it can close those, and certainly it has the ability to strengthen every Georgia community if the good work is going on in our classrooms. So what's the economic impact in Georgia? You may or may not know this, but school districts are typically the largest employer in most of our counties. There are some exceptions for sure, but and this number fluctuates just a little bit depending upon how new business comes in. But 120 out of our 159 counties are considered to be the largest employers, the school districts. And we also have some projections, and this is out of Georgia Trend. We're going to have more people moving to Georgia. It's a growing state. Some 2.5 million more people by 2050, and you know a lot of those are going to be children. They're going to be young people going into our school system. So how effective Georgia educators are, obviously, is vital in preparing our workforce in the future. My colleagues at TRS, they gave us this impact. Even as teachers are retiring, they still have a huge impact on the communities where they live. I think that's important. I certainly would love to have you take a look at this brochure a little bit more. Now, the big reason that we're here is because of Senate Resolution 237. And Senator Hickman approached me and asked me would we be willing to pick up the charge on this, and we said, of course, because we know how important quality educators are to our state. And I can share this with you. We probably have the most accurate vacancy data of all organizations across the state. In fact, we've started collecting it, and we have trends over time. So we've got 4 years of vacancy data, and I'll share that with you in just a moment. But it's a one-time thing. It's on December 2nd, and we ask every school district in Georgia to report. And I'm proud and pleased to say and brag on our school districts. All school districts reported. So this is about as accurate of data as we can get. December 2nd. And you can see that we've got a little spike here, and you may not be able to read those numbers very well, but in 2022, we had 5,853. 23, we had 6,557, had a big spike up. Some of that we could probably attribute to COVID and some of the federal dollars coming in, and people were being hired and those kinds of things there. In 24, 5,295 vacancies. And in this year, our last measure of last December 2nd, was 5,358. That's 64 more vacancies than we had last year. So it's around that 5,000 number that we know that we need more teachers in Georgia. And I can tell you, I think we can do better than that. And the vacancy percentages, again, that ticked up this year about 1.2%. And we're tracking this data over time now, so we want you to know what we've got, what the numbers say, and where we are. If you look at this is actually a new slide for us, and I know it's kind of, again, hard to see, but we've actually added a little bit of color to this about high needs areas. I know there's been a lot of conversation about that. I know House Bill 310 was dropped yesterday, and it was talking about where we need to look for teachers and what needs areas. And I can tell you consistently, it's elementary education. If you look at the black drop there, you say, well, gosh, we've had a huge drop in the need for elementary education teachers. Well, that's not really true because there's so many of them. We've got over 1,031 vacancies just with elementary education. So that's a number that we have to look at. So you can't just look at the guide and not have some interpretation of it to be clearly understanding what the issues are. There are a number of other high needs areas, special ed you've heard about, mathematics, middle grade science, middle grades math. There's a lot of issues there. We have some more up and downs, and so you can see that we're tracking this now over time. And these are relatively new slides, so I would encourage you to go back and take a look. So long story short, Senator Hickman asked us to come together and look at this issue about the needs of filling vacancies here in Georgia, and that's what we've tried to do. I will tell you this report is about 40 pages long. I didn't want to load you up with paper today, but if you'll look, you'll see the website address to the PSC, and this complete document is found there. I would encourage you to go and look at it. I've been around the business of education for a long time. I know I look real young, but I've been around for a long time. And this may be some of the most impactful work I've ever seen done by a collective body. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Because of the resolution, we had a collaborative group of leaders and experts from around the state. It's not just Jody going in the back room with one or two of his buddies and writing this, I promise you. It was put together by a group. Actually, it was more around 70, 80 people that participated. Some just couldn't come all the time, in 18 entities. And I wanted you to see exactly what the members said based on reading the resolution. This is our charge, and this is what we hope to be able to accomplish. But a robust, inclusive, sustainable pipeline of high-quality educators. And I won't read all of that to you, but this is a plan for the entire state of Georgia. And I think it's something that we realized needed to be innovative. It absolutely had to be data informed, and we wanted actionable strategies. Now, this is something that I think is the most impressive thing about this work, one of the most impressive things, and that is all of the people who came together. And I want you to see that because many of them are back here. I'm not going to turn around and look at them because they might want to throw rotten eggs at me for working them so hard here. But look at all the people that participated in this. All of our agencies, all of our education agencies from across the state really weighed in. We went and met with their leaders, the executive director, Chancellor Perdue, Commissioner Dozier, all of the folks that lead these organizations, Superintendent Woods. I can call everyone by name. And they all said, yes, we will agree to work on this with you because they understood the sense of urgency. It's impressive stuff, folks. We talked with Senator Hickman about this. If we're going to start recruitment, we've got to engage the K-12 community as well. And he agreed. and that's why we were putting in the associations. And you can see that we've got a number of the major associations. A lot of people were invited to participate, and we had a great meshing of the agencies and associations. I think that's probably a rarity, honestly. But folks really came together and worked on this thing. SREB was our facilitator, the Southern Regional Educational Board. They did a great job for us. Just to show you the strategies they used, I thought I'd throw that in just so that you can see there was a lot of collaboration with these agencies. It wasn't just one or two people driving the train. Here's what we determined would be our priority challenges. We've got pathways into the profession, recruitment, how we're going to get them to come in, the value proposition. How do we improve the value of education? Because sometimes people in our field don't feel appreciated very much, particularly over the last few years. They feel that things have dropped, things have changed, our society's different, but the value proposition of the profession has to be revisited. If you believe in John Maxwell's work, everything rises and falls with leadership, and certainly the leadership development and retention is important. Data sharing is also a big piece. This is our go big or go home term. We feel like we can be the best state in the nation for the education profession. It's going to take us a little while to get there. The group agreed on 2045. I'd love to see that a whole lot sooner. I think we can do that. So here's some strategic plans. We talk about pathways, how we're going to get there with educator certification, financial support, all of these things that we can work on to help potential educators advance in the profession. We think that's important. The value I mentioned just a second ago, that's really important. The retention, to be able to promote our people. I've used this example several times. I think you'll be hard-pressed to go home this afternoon and not see cows painting on a bulletin board or billboard saying, "Eat more chicken." You know, that's Chick-fil-A. They're marketing. And that's really kind of what we feel like we need to do with our education field. We've got to open that up and do more things to aggressively recruit our young people into the career. And also, I will say this, and this may sound a little pretentious, but we don't want just anybody coming into the profession. We want high quality, smart people who are really committed to making a difference in the lives of our children. So we want to attract top talent. Clearly, we talked about the importance of leadership, providing ongoing and professional support. I can tell you, having been in that role, I'm concerned about our leadership pipeline because I think it's real shallow right now. I think we've got to do a lot of work to help ensure that gets better. So what we did is we developed a plan that really, we knew we weren't going to be able to do all of this in 1 year. In fact, it will take multiple years. We understand that. But what we tried to do was to come up with an executive summary. That's in the main document. I would encourage you to go look at that. We gave some price cost estimates in what these kinds of things would cost, because I know in having presented to legislators before, one of the first questions is, how much is this going to cost and who's going to pay for it? I have great appreciation for that. But look at some of the things that we've talked about doing, some of the strategies that the group came up with and said, this is what we want to look at. The teachers as a profession, the education courses there for students in high school wanting to be a teacher, start out early. Apprenticeships, our state is doing some wonderful work with apprenticeships. I think that's one of the ways that we can get educators into the classroom probably as quick as anything that we could do. So I want to encourage the apprenticeship piece. Tutors to teachers, another big proponent here in Georgia. We've got to have support going across, seamless transitions across preparation programs. I can tell you, if you saw or heard the governor's eggs and issues remarks, he talked about articulation agreements between TCSG, USG, even the K-12 setting. Folks, we've got to work on that, and I know that's happening. I talked with Mark Peavy, my friend from TCSG, and he shared with me just a moment ago that they feel like they're getting closer on the issue of education articulation agreements. I'm excited about that. Increased transparency, certainly hope is important to us. We want to look at what's creating barriers for young people trying to finish the career. We've looked at student teaching. I know that's a thing for Senator Hickman. He's talked about that a lot with me, about how important it is. Students are in the class, they're finishing the coursework, now they have to go student teach, and they can't afford to do that either because of the expense of driving or relocating to another system, another community in order to be a student teacher there. We got to figure out a way to help them, and we have some options there. Looking at providing stipends possibly or grants. I'm going to zip on through here because I know my time is getting closer here. Support systems and working environments. One of the things that we talked about is a portrait of a teacher. I know all of you have a favorite teacher you can remember, I bet. If I were to ask you, you could probably tell me their name right now. But some folks may not know what a really high quality teacher looks like. And what we've done is that we've created a portrait of a teacher, and we've done that for a leader, and I'll show that in just a second. Utilize teacher input. They've got to have a voice. We certainly think protecting their teaching time is important too. Here's the portrait. I know you cannot see that. I apologize for that, but you can see it when you look at the documents and you look at the PowerPoint if you pull it up. Valuing the profession, that's critically important. I know there's Senator Hickman mentioned some bills that were being dropped. There's a tax credit here that may be one of those bills. There's one thing that would help us to retain teachers more. I don't know if you know this or not, but in the state teacher salary schedule, it tops out at 21 years of experience. And some people think, well, that's all I'm going to get. I think I'm just going to go ahead and retire. And if we don't have any incentive for them to continue to move up, they may go ahead and retire and go do something else. We don't want them to do that. They're reaching their maximum quality of being an educator at that point. So we're talking about the potential of another step that we would add in. I think that would be really important to look at. I know that that's not going to happen this year. Let me just go ahead and tell you, it won't, unless y'all have a printing press and can print a lot of money. I don't think you have that. But I hope that you will look at that and maybe commission some more study committees to see how much that would cost us as a profession. And again, the return to work bill, I know there's a couple of those bills. We have to have that in place. We had about 400 teachers last year that came back and worked in our systems. And I know I heard some of at the Senate Bill 150 when it was on the floor and discussed. I can tell you, I know one of the questions that came up was about COLAs. I went back and looked. It's actually in the bill if we dove deep into it. But I called TRS. I spoke with Dr. Branch, and he verified that the person, if they come back after they retire, they are not eligible for an increase in COLA. That's already been calculated. So it's not additional money. So I wanted to be sure if you had questions about that, we were able to answer that for you. Valuing the profession, we talked about that. Working environments are critically important. We want to have positive cultures in our schools, and that is driven by a lot of different levers. I'm going to keep going because, again, I know our time is getting closer, and I want to be able to give you some time to ask some questions if you have some. Valuing the profession, again, there's more there. If you haven't seen Teach in the Peach, I would encourage you to look at that. That's something that came out of the DOE. Teach Georgia is actually housed in the PSC. Let me move on. Enhance leadership and support capacity statewide. Here's that portrait of a leader. It's talking about the dispositions and the competencies of educators in leadership roles. And we think it's important to see the best people in those roles and how we can help them get there. Leadership and well-being, y'all know that's a stressful job. When you talk about the issues of school shootings, when you talk about other kinds of major issues that are happening in communities, educators have to deal with those kinds of things. They need some help and support. I've reached out to the state health benefit plan. They're willing to partner with us. And folks, that won't cost us anything. That's already money that's appropriated. And they're willing to partner with us if we want to do some work there. We feel like we need to have a better handle on the reason why teachers leave, why educators leave. We can do that through some survey data. We'd like to be able to do that statewide. We think that we need to take a look at our education leadership certification and compensation programs. The issue is complex. If you talk with any leadership person in education, they will tell you Tier 1 and Tier 2 is a problem for us. And we need to look at that. We need to come back in and rework that, and we're going to start that soon. Data sharing and government usage, one of the things that we talk about, in God we trust, but everybody else we want to see data. We believe that. I asked all of our agency heads would they be willing to share their data personnel with us, and they did. And really, it was a surprise to me. I didn't know. They might say, why are you bothering me? I've got stuff to work back in the office. And really what they said to me was, thank you for pulling us together. We see that there's a lot of things that we could do with data sharing agreements, with memorandums of understanding. We feel like we can make data more relevant and more impactful if we work together. So I just want to put that out there. There's some things that we want to do that. So we've completed our steps. We've shared with the our Senate and House Education Committees, and now the plan is with you folks. And we hope that you will take a look and pull out those things that are important to you, that you think might be beneficial for impacting Georgia and its program forward. I have some helpful resources, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop there.
Yeah.
But I'd like to be able to give you an opportunity. Folks, this took almost 6 months, so I'm trying to give it to you in about 30 minutes. I apologize if I've gone so fast.
No.
But I'm happy to sit down with you and talk. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. By the way, I do want to tell you, there's a lot of people here that
Yeah.
worked on this, so
Oh, yeah.
they'll wave at
Oh,
you.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. First of all, as I've sat through, Senator Payne and I've sat through two meetings, and it's very, very impactful, and I've studied it. and it really is a roadmap going forward, and that's exactly what we want to do. And it's not a get quick fix thing. I do want to share this. I asked Dr. Barrett, because y'all saw all the people that was involved in this. I asked him to go back and contact these agencies, and I'm not doing this to brag on it, but I think it does. Will tell you how intense this group got on this stuff. I asked them to go back and tell us, everybody that participated, and give us the people hours that was put in this report, the number of people hours that put in this report. And the number of people hours that Dr. Barrow told me was 3,465 hours put in this report. So these guys took this thing serious. We gave them a charge, and they accepted it, and they took it serious. And now we've got a document that I want all y'all to look at and read, and let's get together and work together as the Senate Education Committee and make some of this stuff happen, because we need to. We got over 5,000 vacancies in Georgia. Y'all heard that yesterday. So I'll turn it over to Senator Hatchett and ask him. Well, we're gonna have a couple questions, and we got some other guys got to present.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know you threw a lot out at us, and I appreciate everything. My questions are a little scattered. I'm going to try to get the brief ones out of the way, and then I've got one just
Oh, Lord.
more opening. Sorry, I take a lot of notes, Mr. Chairman. The articulation you were talking about, is that the 2+2 articulation with the
They have done 2
technical
plus 2 with nurses. That's already done. But the one that we're pressing for now is education. If a person, if they start with the TAP, the teacher as a professional, if they start in high school, they're going to take several courses there. if it transfers up, maybe they go to a technical school, or maybe they go to between the institutions, so that they receive the credit for the classes that they've already taken. And that'll help give them some incentive. If I've already got something in the bank, that gives me a little incentive to continue forward.
Which, if we could get that established, that also helps from a fiscally conservative standpoint,
Absolutely.
because you still use the Hope
Absolutely.
Scholarship for your 2 years for associates, and then it transfers.
Absolutely.
Out.
There's method to the madness.
Okay.
100%.
Well, I hope anything you need help with on that, I would be a huge supporter of that. I've got several technical schools in my district, and
Good deal.
that's a big deal. I'll skip some of these. The biggest question I have is, last year we banned cell phones in schools for K through 8. I've heard from multiple teachers, especially in one of my school districts, that did a ban on cell phones in high school. One of the things that teachers complain about, and I say complain, bring to my attention, is that they're fighting a battle in the classroom with kids that are on their phones. They're distracted. They're not able to pay attention. Therefore, they don't necessarily get everything they could get out of the lesson. Have you heard that? Did y'all touch that at all? And if we were to move forward with banning it through high school, do you think that would make an impact on not necessarily recruitment, but on retention, to lessen the frustration that teachers are faced with at the end of the day?
I think teachers are frustrated because they have to be policemen rather than educators.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an issue. I can tell you, I have twins. They've just graduated. They're in their first year of college. Their high school had already done it. Now, they didn't take it from them, but they had a process in place where they could not touch their phone during class time. And that helped a lot for them, I can tell you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Senator Sutter-Holden just had a study done by Georgetown University, and I think the numbers were like, Senator Hatcher, they contact like 3,000 people, teachers, parents, students across the board, and it was 73% of them said the cell phones need to go, electronic device. So it's pretty strong, and so.
That's some good data.
Yeah, good. Senator
I
Sutton.
know when at high school they have after-school activities, they have work study, all those kinds of things. There's some things that can be worked out there, I think, to make it where it's not a negative impact on families, but helps the classroom.
Senator Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two questions. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your openness to do this work. First one is maybe more of a carry-away question. I don't know that you can answer it here. I was talking to Mark Feuerbach. He's the superintendent of Cartersville City Schools, one of my school districts, and I challenged him to think about this, and I want to challenge you and others. There seems to be more and more things we're asking teachers to do. More and more things every bill seems to put another requirement and layer it on, and every time that happens. This isn't an answer for us today necessarily, but what 8 things can we give teachers and say, we're going to take away these responsibilities you have? This is something you're having to do that we're going to eliminate so that you can concentrate on what's needed. I mean, the key to concentration, as Andy Stanley said, is elimination. Is eliminate things that stuff, so we can. The teachers that I talk to in the private schools love their job because they have it's not different kids. I know teachers who literally are told, you have absolute and total control of your classroom. You just go do it. And they love their job because they're able to do the things they got an education to do. Maybe carry away what things we can eliminate off of teachers so they can concentrate. Any thoughts? And I do have one follow-up to that, Mr.
I
Chairman.
call that the stop doing list. We did that in my system, my schools, and we let teachers suggest those things. There's a balance here because there are a lot of requirements that teachers are required to meet, and they feel compelled to meet those, and that's problematic. I know one of the things that's in this report is protecting teacher planning time, and we need to relook at that.
Okay. One, Mr. Chairman, my other question is getting folks into the profession. Across the professions, I'm in the architecture business, architecture engineering world. There's a move towards demonstrated competency as opposed to just education. There's always been a test, but there's a move towards people who are professionals, have demonstrated expertise in the profession versus just, do you have this degree?
Yes.
I want to challenge you to think about, in fact, I dropped a bill today. It'll be House Bill 484. I'd like to work with you on. The Senate bill, thank you. Thank you. It's experience-based teacher accreditation that gives teachers who have 4 years of teaching experience outside of the public schools, the private school setting, or even the college setting, that essentially would eliminate the student teaching and some of the academic requirements to get folks in. I know private school teachers who would love to be teaching in the public schools, but they're told, yeah, there's this pathway, but at the end of the pathway, it's going to require a 30-hour Master of Arts in Teaching as part of that process. And I think it's principally wrong to do that. I think you have a core couple things they've got to master academically, and people who've sort of mastered their business, we're keeping them out of the classroom. And I wanted to think about that, and how can we be in step with other professions where you've got other experience-based approaches in other professions. How can we mirror that in teaching?
Yes, sir. I've been around long enough when Governor Deal sponsored a competency-based review of programs and services. So I think maybe we can give you some ideas. I will tell you one example, because I was at Winter Gale last week, and the University of West Georgia put this out on the table. The dean of the college was the one who announced this, but he said they would be willing to accept credit from a Gale course and/or other courses that the Superintendent's Association or the School Board Association taught, and if it met their standards, they would give them credit. So they didn't have to take two things and have to spend time because they'd already done that. So there's some things that I think that we can do competency-based wise.
I just know Senator Beach's wife, for example. I'll use her as an example. She was a great teacher at a private school in North Fulton County. She raised $15 million for the school as a fundraiser. She was a business teacher. She was turned away from a Fulton County school to be a business teacher because she didn't have the teacher accreditation. She didn't have the Master of Arts in Teaching or the equivalent. And we're turning away great educators who have big impacts in the private school setting and even in our colleges because that a requirement that I don't know serves us big picture.
Sure.
We do have some waivers in place that districts can now offer that might be helpful. So, yes, sir.
You ready? You ready? Thank y'all. Dr. Barrow, we can't thank you enough, and we're going to continue this conversation. And I would encourage members of the committee to follow up with the report and delve into it. And then this guy is always accessible to us, and so we appreciate it. And thank you so much for doing this for us. And
Happy to do it. I'll come back anytime. So.
I know you, and I know that. Senator Dozal, it's your show. You want to do it from there, or you want to sit down?
I'll be so quick from here, it'll be less time than we take any one.
Okay, that sounds good to me. So what number are you?
15.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Senate Bill 471. I'm working off of LC 610367. 4 years ago, we passed the, what was it called? The Unmasked Georgia Students Act that essentially only allowed schools to put mask mandates in place if there was an opt-out provision for parents. And when we passed that bill in 2022, we put a 5-year sunset on it, such that it would expire on June 30th of 2027. This bill does one thing and one thing only, and it removes that sunset. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You know, that's amazing, isn't it? That blows my mind. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Dolezal. Question, I can't recall, I remember the bill, I cannot recall the rationale for the sunset. Could you explain where that came from and why you think removing it at the current time would be prudent? And I noted the sunset is in 27.
Thank you.
Yeah. So at the time, there was a lot of discussion around we weren't exactly going to know how any of the things that we were passing in response to COVID would necessarily go. And this one in particular, I think along with a number of other bills that we passed during that time, I haven't heard a word about it. And so there's not been any friction points that I've heard about within the school system, whether those are public schools or charter schools. And the reason I'm doing it now is I know that I'm here now. and want to get it done. I actually had a constituent ask me, I'd forgotten about this sunset that we put in. A constituent pinged me about it just a week ago, and she said, I'm worried, I'm nervous, the sunset will expire, nobody's going to be here to fix it. And I said, I'm on it, we'll get it fixed. So that's
Very good.
where that came from.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to ask for a motion. You passed. Got a first, a second? Okay, it's your second. Any discussion? Looking none. None. All in favor, raise your right hand. Got it. Okay, all opposed? Okay, well, thank y'all. Okay, good. Thank you, Senator. We got, the next bill is Senator Steele's bill, and I think he's got a little help on this bill.
Chairman, my bill's gonna take a minute longer than Senator Dole's.
Okay, we'll see.
1 minute longer?
Yeah, we'll see.
1 minute longer.
Dr. Barrow, thank you again. Okay.
So the summary, thank you, Chairman of the Committee. The summary that you have correctly identifies the version we're working on for SB 369 as LC 492635S.
Right.
That's different than the original bill. One of the major changes in this from the version from last year to this year is that it was referring to it as completion charter schools, and we've changed that to dropout recovery charter school, and that's reflected in the difference between the two bills. So just as a refresher, the purpose of this bill is to help bring more Georgia high school students back into the educational system from a dropout position. Rob's with me today, Rob Fortson. He can certainly answer any of the questions, but just kind of walking you through it quickly. Currently, we have a statewide accountability system that attempts to put these schools in the same box with other schools. And then this takes into consideration different GPAs, different times. It's focused in a way that maybe it's for students that are caring for an adult, a sibling, or a child of their own that can't finish traditional school. Or maybe they're dealing with bullies, or they're working, or they just have a different time frame in what they do. The short-term and intermediate goals applied to this are credit recovery rate, increased GPA, increase in attendance, and prior to graduation, completion of the FAFSA or acceptance into a 2- or 4-year college. The bill basically does three things. It establishes the dropout recovery charter schools as a new definition in the education code. It requires the State Board of Education to establish rules and regulations allowing for a charter school to apply for local approval through this designation. And it requires the Governor's Office of Student Achievement to separately report on the performance of these schools. I know we're running short on time, so happy to answer any questions.
You fine.
Sure. Rob Fortson is, as Chairman Still said, I'm an education attorney with the law firm of Gilbert and Harrell, and so I'm here because the school I've had the privilege of working with for 10 years, Skyview High School, falls into this category, and their principal, Shelley Ledger, is here, so I'll let her tell the story of the school. But as Senator Still said, other states have this type of alternative accountability system. North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, so everybody in the Southeast except our neighbors to the west already have something like this through statute or through regulation. And so what we're trying to do here is simply recognize that the traditional school doesn't work for these students, and we also need to recognize that in terms of how we measure what they're doing. Because if you just do raw CCRPI data, it's not telling the story, and it's not properly measuring the success that they're having. And Skyview's experienced that because they have, when they come up for renewal, they have yet to receive a full 5-year renewal based on those metrics that aren't measuring them. But as Senator Still said, when it comes to credit recovery, GPA improvement, not just college ready or college or career readiness, but actually college career acceptance. They have to show that they are on a path where they are, they're going to college, or they're going into work or the military. So it's a great story, and it's a great school, and we'd like to see more of them. There's another one that's been approved in Savannah, received unanimous approval by the Savannah Board of Education, which I'm sure Senator Hickman can tell you is no easy feat. The board includes a pastor, a judge, business leaders, child advocates. So it's a great story of community involvement, and we're trying to encourage more opportunities for schools like this.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this bill. Many folks may not know I was actually a principal of a dropout prevention recovery school in Ohio. And so Ohio is another one of the states that does have this type of law on the books because so many of the students come in so far behind. And, you know, these schools are doing a yeoman's job of educating kids that otherwise would have fallen through the cracks. So just thankful for you bringing this bill. I don't necessarily have a question, but I'll pose one. Isn't it because of the fact that so many of the kids come in so far behind that such a law would be required so that you're not facing closure because you're being held to a standard that you potentially would never meet based upon the students that you're getting?
Yeah, that's, you answered the question you asked, right? It's these average students coming in 17 years of age with maybe a half semester's worth of high school credits, reading often on a third grade level. So again, the first semester often is just literacy remediation, just to get them to a place where they can access the material, and then they often accelerate, not just remediate. But again, that takes time.
Great, thank you. Well, I'd like to make a motion at the proper time.
We haven't,
We have
don't see
speaker.
any other questions. Huh? Okay, we have no, call the question again? Have a second, oh, sorry.
I'd like to second my seatmate's motion.
Yeah. Get the first to Senator Kemp, but a second to Senator Settle. Okay, any other discussion? Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Excited about this bill. I just would like to point out that we do have the principal from Skyview here, and Skyview happens to be in my district. I too co-sign on the fact that they do an incredible job readying young people who might otherwise be forgotten and getting them on a path of excellence. And so just wanted to co-sign that.
Thank you. I was remiss, we do have one person, Ms. Shelley Legler, that would like to, was that who it was?
That's who it
Okay,
is.
well, thank you, okay. Thank you, you'll be happy with this, then, okay. So, we first and second call the question, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, 100%, good job.
Thank you, committee.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be looking, we're scheduled to have another meeting on Thursday. We don't have, we're looking for the bills right now to figure out. We definitely, if we don't have one Thursday, we're gonna definitely have one Tuesday because we'll have a couple of bills, education bills on Tuesday. Okay? Thank you. Bye. Good day. Thank you.